oh, she must be like this because this is how it was with my last girlfriend or my last relationship. The boss says this to you, oh, he must not like me because this person said this. And our brain is trying to pull information and data from all these different points to reason this experience.
Yeah, to fill in the gaps of the things we don't know because that is uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's trying to protect us.
Yeah. Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Welcome to the Wisdom Stripes podcast, where we explore the profound journeys of individuals who've emerged from life's challenges with hard-earned wisdom and resilience. I'm your host, Meg Tuohey, and I'm thrilled to share that this podcast is brought to you by the transformative program, the Wisdom Lab. If you're feeling stuck in painful patterns, desperately seeking a breakthrough, and yearning for the tools to shatter emotional barriers and reclaim your power, the Wisdom Lab is your answer. In just 4 hours, you'll discover how to tap into your inner wisdom, turn confusion into clarity, and unlock the profound personal growth you've been craving. No more band-aid solutions or surface-level advice. This is about deep, lasting transformation from the inside out. Ready to embark on this life-changing journey? Head to the show notes for an exclusive link to learn more. Let's unleash your wisdom together. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we will explore entrepreneurship, mindset, and the tangible steps to create real success. Our guest today is Grant Mitt, entrepreneur, investor, and CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in the nation, Mitt Group. He's also the host of the Grant Mitt Podcast, which ranks as a top 25 business podcast in over 50 countries. Grant has dedicated his career to helping others scale their businesses, master their mindsets, and achieve financial freedom through strategic action. From scaling a $1,000 startup to a multi-million-dollar enterprise, Grant's journey is marked by relentless discipline, clear vision, and an ability to simplify complex strategies into actionable insights. His work spans across business, psychology, and personal development, focused on helping others increase income, optimize careers, and take control of their futures. Today, he joins us to share the wisdom behind building wealth, handling challenges like a pro, and achieving success through first principles, thinking, and intentional growth. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godparents, turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Grant, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Well, hopefully a lot of wisdom. I'll try my best. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's welcome to Texas.
Thank you.
We have apparently a lot of similarities to Australia. They're amazing people.
Yeah.
Very cheerful.
Very kind.
Very kind.
Open-hearted.
Very.
Lots of good eye contact and lots of kind wishes.
I love that.
Yeah, I've had a wonderful time so far.
Well, welcome. You got to get some barbecue while you're here, I hope.
I got to get some barbecue. So far, just the big all-American breakfast.
Okay.
But maybe tonight's my night.
You got to get some Terry Blacks. You'll enjoy it.
Okay.
That's the place to go.
All right.
But anyways, it's a pleasure to be on. So wisdom, the more that through starting companies and going out and trying to be successful and then helping other people, at first, you get a lot of times people get caught up in all of the details of doing something to be successful. Like, what does it take? What do you got to read? Who do you got to talk to? Who do you got to know? All these things. And they are very essential. But what I've noticed is there's a big underlying common denominator that I think would affect every single person that could listen. And it would probably have to be detachment. And the reason why that's so important, what I've found, is while I think it's important to strive to be great, I find that especially now in today's society, everyone is so attached to having to have things this certain way that they think is the only way. And they attach all of their happiness and fulfillment to that vision or that thing that they want in life. And I found that when you can find a way to be fully detached from what you believe that you want, it'll create success and it'll also create fulfillment. And also you will flow in the right direction naturally without any concrete effort. You'll feel called to do things. You'll naturally do things and you won't be so tight. And it's interesting because I've noticed a switch. In the last year, I started working with entrepreneurs all across the country and international. And you still have this theory, like, is one industry or one business, is it different? If you're good at this business, is it going to be hard to be the other? And what I found is it's all the same, because business is a management and allocation of energy. And the people that work for you, for example, you're constantly competing for their energy and focus, whether that's through Indeed, through LinkedIn, through their spouses, through their kids, through health, through things that are going on in the world. Even in Texas, we've had hurricanes here in Houston. We've had crazy stuff. Even that, like, we've lost power for 3-4 days. That's competing with energy. And so when you start to learn and understand what drives human beings, and most importantly, I think what drives yourself, you understand kind of the system, like you mentioned in First Principles, the basics and the fundamentals of what drives every human. And that helps you organize and create things that people love in an organized fashion. And so the more that you understand yourself and what drives you, I think the happier that you'll get.
There's so much wisdom there. I want to circle back to one of the first things you said about being detached. Can we operationalize that term? Because it's not detached in a way where I don't care.
Right.
It's not detached in a way like I don't mind where I get to. It's detached from it being a specific path that has to equal how I'm going to get there. Did I read that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one way that I've kind of thought through it is the things that we believe that we want in life is typically because of the positive things that we think are associated with that goal or that life. And while everyone's smart enough to know, is there downsides, everyone's going to go, yeah, of course. Like, of course, there's going to be some stressful things you have to deal with, some challenging things that you deal with, some things that you don't know that you're going to have to deal with. But we usually don't spend too much energy thinking about those things when we want to create it. We're only thinking about the quote unquote things that we believe are the best things that come with it. And so what I've found is a lot of times in life, we may not even actually truly want the things that we want because we haven't even fully comprehended or understood what is truly going to take to not only get it, but keep it.
I mean, right? We don't know what it takes. And it's only when you're in the trenches of the climb that you're like, oh my goodness.
Right. And 100%. And so what I've found is there's two different ways, attention and intention. Attention creates energy and energy goes towards that area. But nothing transforms, but it does grow.
Okay.
So if you start going, I want to become better at communication.
Yes.
And it starts with like the basics. You go to a restaurant. Instead of just answering really quickly to the waiter or waitress, you spend a little bit more time. You make sure that they feel heard. You communicate a little bit more intentfully, right? You get in an Uber or you get in a taxi. You kind of go out of your way to communicate a little bit better. You start noticing how they respond to what you say. But then attention, you switch to intention. Intention transforms. And that's when you change who you are. You change everything around you. And that's when your world fully changes. So there's attention and intention. Now, not being attached, I think, is so essential. And what's kind of helped me, because I'm a very, especially growing up, I was like, wake up and I'd go conquer the world and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that. And I think I'm still the same way.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have a bit of a subtle amount that it doesn't really matter. Like, we're here to learn. We're here to grow. One day we're all going to die, and that's guaranteed. And I think it's, in a weird way, a beautiful thing. Because when you're going to die and you know that it's quote unquote going to end in some capacity, then every other moment and every other experience matters more. And when that's the case, it becomes more beautiful because you can kind of let the process just develop itself. And so what I like to do when I think I want something, and you say, I have to get it or this and the other, I think I want something. I go, okay, well, why do I want it? What comes with it that I like? Okay, so I process all of that information. I'm like, okay, this is good. And I'm like, now what are the negatives or the challenges or the stressful things that are also going to come through this process? Because if I want to become something that I'm not currently now, I'm going to have to change.
Yeah.
And the universe, God, whatever you want to use, it has an interesting path of when I'm going from point A to point B, the first step that occurs that we all experience is there's this cleansing or kind of vacuum effect that occurs that pulls every one of our weaknesses, insecurities, anything that we struggle at will be exposed. And this will come through a fender bender. When you get a flat tire, it may come through a breakup. It may come through something with work. It may become through something massive financial. And all of it is designed for growth. And so what I found is that, humans, we can handle the truth. We can't handle surprises. So if we know when we want something bigger, we're going to immediately go through all of these obstacles, all of these struggles, all of these different things. We can change our perspective about it and go, okay, wait, I have to do this because this is meant to make me grow. And if I don't go through these things, I will not grow and I will not become the person that's capable of doing the things that I want. Because you could get there and you could experience the good things, but as soon as the negatives happen and the challenges are associated with making that level of success happen, you haven't become that person yet, so you will lose it faster than you gained it.
You haven't grown into the person that can hold the container of the life that you've built.
Exactly.
They have to match.
Exactly. You have to expand who you are to allow more to come in.
Or build who you need to be
Yes.
so that you can support the container of the thing that you wish for.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I'm really super curious because I think this opening, we can tell, or we being the listeners and I, we can tell you're clever, you got this, you see it really clearly. One of the things on behalf of the listeners that we're super interested in is what it's like to run a podcast that's in the top 25. I think I said 50 countries. That feels like very good numbers. Would you tell us a little bit about the journey, the dream, and the reality?
I think it was one of those things that kind of happened naturally. I didn't wake up one day and decide I really wanted to be a podcaster. So in 2020, I first became an entrepreneur and TikTok had just started. And I was like, no one talks about business on TikTok. It's crazy to hear that now, but it was just kind of a thing that popped up out of nowhere during the pandemic. And so I was like, what if I just put like little short, like 30 to 60 second motivational clips on and let's see if people like it. And so I just started throwing it up and within like the 15th video, it started catching on and people started really, really liking it. So I started doing it over the course of a year or so. And then people kept asking, do you have a podcast? Do you have a book? Do you have anything? I'm like, no, I don't have it. I'm running a business right now. Like I don't have time for all these things. And so finally I was like, you know what? Like, let's make a podcast. And so I went and got the stuff, and this was kind of before podcast studios, actually. Unless you had a studio or you went out of your way to find it, it just wasn't really a thing. So I went and bought podcast equipment, and just in my condo, I just figured out how to do it. I watched some YouTube videos, and I still don't know how to edit. You mentioned like I don't know how to do all this tech stuff. I don't know how to do all of it either, and I don't really want to learn, honestly. And so my thing was I didn't have an editor at the time and I don't know how to edit. So I was like, I have to talk perfect for 20 minutes and I can't mess up once. If I mess up, I have to start over again. And so that helped me learn how to do that. But I started and it started catching on. And in 2022, this is how crazy it was. I wasn't even videoing these podcasts. I would just upload it to Spotify and Apple. And I was like, maybe I should do video. It's a big thing. Like you would think, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And so within like a month of doing that, it started going viral, and it went to 139 countries. All these people listening to it, and I've just tried to, what I always longed for was this mentor that would guide me, and I really have never gotten it, which is very interesting. And I've got it in different ways and through people, and I've studied and learned and read, and I've done it indirectly.
Yeah.
But I was always like kind of shocked throughout the process, just now, even early on. So I was like, why don't people know this? Why didn't anybody tell me this? And so I was like, you know what? Everything I'm gonna learn and I experience, I'm just gonna tell to other people to help them. And if it helps someone, it helps someone. You know, whatever comes with it, comes with it. And it's been amazing because what's so cool about it is you just never know who you're helping.
Yeah.
And you never know how it's impacting them.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about it. And it also brings great connections and great relationships. Like, who knows, you know, from Melbourne, Australia, you know, 5 years ago, who knew we would be meeting at this moment?
Who knew? And how wonderful for that.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing. It's cool. It's great because you get to connect with so much different people across the world. So it's amazing.
Curious minds want to know, what is it actually like to go viral? What is it like to have 139 countries worth of people watch your videos, react to your videos, have an opinion about your content? We know that the opinion stakes are wide-ranging.
They are.
We know that they are vast and wide. What is that experience like?
Well, it depends. First, it's very exciting. And then what's interesting, because we were talking about this at the beginning, about detachment and all these different things and why it's so important, is you can't be attached to it. You kind of get to a point as you grow your platform, just like growing a business, where it's more metrics driven and you're like, it's more feedback for me. It's kind of the way I look at it. So how people are responding, there's so much layers to it. I'm like, okay, well, what are they saying? And then next layer is like, who is saying what? Because different age groups, different demographics, different countries, and even like different lingos. You know, you guys, I'm assuming you have a big Australian listener base. I'm assuming.
I think I probably don't.
Really? So it's all over.
Well, I think it's American. My world, my work has been American facing since 2018.
Okay.
And so I think if there's any Aussies listening, hello, I think you are small numbered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
I have some Australian, but mostly American. But even just certain lingos, like things I'll say, some are like, what does that mean? And you know, it's just great feedback, and it's interesting because you get to learn so much about what people are thinking. And it's taught me, I mean, even every year it compounds, I feel like. I mean, in just the last 5-6 months, I feel like I've learned more about people and what they think and how they process information than I have in my entire life. So it's really cool.
I would love your highlight reel. What are the main takeaways?
The key thing that I would say is that we indirectly, naturally as humans, most of us, you seem very good at this. You're very open, and you're very good at feeling people's energy and also not judging them. You have a very non-judgmental type of vibe to you. But I think most humans in general, they indirectly see every single person, the thing they say, the things that they did, what they see visibly through their own perspective and through their own story, their own biases, and their own associations.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing that I've noticed is the difference between how people treat you and understand you through how they've consumed your content and how much they've consumed it. So I'll give you an example. If someone comes up to me at a restaurant or someplace I'm out, within 5 seconds, you know exactly what they've consumed. You know if it was a couple short form reels on Instagram or if they've listened to all of my podcasts or YouTube. Because it's interesting, it's like the human brain can know, like we've only had TV since I think the 50s. 50s, right?
Yeah.
Social media we've had early 2000s.
Yeah.
Really like 2007, 2008 was really when it became a thing. And so our brains, like this is new to humans. And if you've watched, for example, a reality TV show or a YouTuber or you've listened to your great podcast for the past year, it's almost as if your brain thinks that you know that person.
Yeah. I think the word is parasocial.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's the term for feeling like you know the person because you have watched them.
It's called, say it one more time.
Parasocial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so their brains, and there's something called Google came out with this rule, and Google has more data than almost any, they can probably listen to this conversation right now somehow. Google's probably in this room.
Hi, Google.
They're probably in this room. But they basically figured out what it took to make a consumer buy a product and that whole process. And what they figured out is that it takes 7 hours of research or content that's been consumed, 11 touch points, and 4 locations. And so when you start identifying who are people's favorite podcasters or musicians or actors or athletes or, you know, professional athletes or whatever the case may be, when you think about it, LeBron James plays for 2 hours every single game. If Drake makes an album, that whole album front to back's an hour, 20 minutes, hour, 30 minutes. If you think about a lot of these people that are really, really successful and the biggest podcasters and content creators, they all create long form content. And I think there's just this chemical switch that occurs in people's brains when they've consumed your content for a certain amount of time. But the most interesting thing, and where I'm like, I need to adjust, is most of my content is very business focused, and the majority, besides my podcast, have been so heavily short form based. And so the downside to this is they almost create a character of you because they're seeing you for 60 seconds, 45 seconds, this and this and this. And it's a real quick message that's direct and to the point. So the problem is their brain goes, okay, who is this? And they start seeing it more and more and more, and it starts creating this character. And the gaps of that character are going to be filled in by what? Not what I did, not what I've been through, not, you know, the way that I am with my friends when we're out and we're having fun, or the way I am with my family. If they've seen me with my family before, their brain will fill in those gaps. But if they haven't, their brain's going to create something based on maybe someone that they've met that might be similar to me, maybe personality, maybe people that are like me through association, through reputation, through brand. Like, oh, he makes podcasts. Most podcasters are like this. So he must act like this.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is I need to do a better job at showing people the other sides of me so they can get a complete version. There's a girl I work with, her name's Kimberly Price, and she's fantastic. And as a person, because I've worked with her for hours and hours and hours, she has such a big heart, so kind, so sweet, so passionate, but she's very fiery. And in the only thing that most people have seen that's gone viral is shorts. Yeah. And she's fiery and she's saying kind of controversial things in business, not too crazy. And she has all these people, like, she's going viral and just going crazy and saying all these horrible things. She's like, Grant, I don't understand it. I'm trying to do all these good things. And what I asked her is, the people that you work with and consult with, how do they treat you and what do they think about you? And she's like, well, they love me. And I'm like, well, why do they love you? She's like, well, they know everything about me. They've spent all this time with me. And I go, okay, so think about it. The people that are getting mad and don't like you, they've only seen a 30-second clip. All they see is a fiery blonde girl telling them everything they believe is wrong for 20 years. Of course, that's going to create this like fiery opposite antibody reaction. They don't know all this other sides to you. They have no context. They don't even know who you are. You have to teach them who you are and earn that audience respect and trust. And so there's so many layers to it. And so that's what I was kind of saying earlier, is that you get to learn how people process people and you. Because you think, how do I look to the world? You don't really know until you put yourself out there. And it's so interesting to see how people respond.
In psychology, there's a term called Tabula Rasa.
Okay.
And that means blank slate. So if you and I were in a therapeutic relationship, I, as the therapist, would be all like, who is this guy? And I'd be building my version of what it is I can see about you and
character
starting
profile.
Some kind of protocol for an intervention for whatever outcome you're here to have. You, though, see me as a blank slate. And so you show me your internal world by painting it on me. And so I can be a villain, I can be a mother figure, I can be a friend, I can be anything else in between. And then the psychological relationship is designed to say, actually, I'm your blank sheet of paper and you drew your insides here. So let's have a look at this together because we've built a safe relationship to do so. Let's look at this together. And then we can see how your internal world is projecting onto other people's.
Crazy.
And it does sound a little bit like what you're describing is where people don't have the answer, they fill in the gaps.
They do.
And they project their internal worlds or their known assumptions. They plug the gaps so that they feel like they understand.
Yeah. The brain is so interesting because it'll find whatever it's looking for.
Yes, you got to point it in. You've got to ask a good question and point it in a good direction.
Yes. You know, they did this study. I hope I get this right as I can. It was very interesting. They did this study on, especially, I'm sure you've seen, being from Australia, you've seen all of the American movies with the high school and the parties and all the different things.
I mean, I've seen a couple.
So it was interesting because they did a study on what makes kids popular in high school.
Okay.
And high school dynamics is very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, complex.
Very complex. Maybe tougher than the real world.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The study, and they interviewed all of these different kids, and they wanted to figure out what were the common denominators for all these high schools and what made these certain kids popular. And they thought, did they play sports? Did they like these certain things? Did they look a certain way? Were they, quote unquote, better looking? What was the dynamics? And there was one common denominator. It was that the most popular people liked the most people and thought best of the most other people. So if I thought through it, I'm like, who's the best with people that I know? Like, who is just loves everyone loves them. A common thing, it clicked for me. I was like, they just find so much good in everyone instinctively. You never hear them talking bad about people. They just really like people.
So I can do a little bit of data on this because this is one of my subject specialty areas.
Okay, interesting.
So what this is called, one frame of what this is called in the psychological world is positive regard or unconditional positive regard. Okay. Where in a relationship with somebody, when I think of you, I just think very warm thoughts. And it comes from when there's a strong friendship system, which is that we've built a good foundation and we know each other. Okay. But what you're describing couldn't be that deep across a lot of people. But the unconditional positive regard could be.
Interesting.
And then what gets really interesting is where does unconditional positive regard come from as it pertains to large groups of people? It must come from some type of innate heart for people.
I think so.
And the genuine care and acceptance of differences and a deep curiosity of who are you and an assumption that you're a good person and that I'm lucky that I get to interact with you. And if you took that with you, that's going to be so, not interesting, that's not the word. It's going to be so attractive. It's going to be inviting to other people. And then when that person interacts with our hypothetical person who has warm, positive regard for most people, all people, they're going to have a warm interaction. And that's where we're going to see the solidification of that sense of community and belonging. And that's the epicenter, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. You know, it's like how people communicate and what makes them trust one another is so interesting.
The science of trust.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a learned trait or do you think it's very natural that people have combo of both?
I think there is a science of trust and it is around, are you there for me? So if I need you, are you there? And are you there most of the time? Are you someone that I can turn towards and you're there? It's got loyalty in it. It's got commitment in it. And it's got the idea that no matter how I come to you, you still show up for me. That is what builds trust.
Interesting.
Over time. Yeah. Hard earned, quickly lost.
Very.
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, you learn so much. And social media, it's different, obviously, than real life.
Yeah.
But you kind of get to see also what people are like when their masks are off.
Yeah.
Like you see the most blunt comments from usually the ones with no profile pictures. And I've kind of got to the point where I'm not attached to feeling any sort of way or having to get any sort of feedback.
Yeah.
So I look at it now very objectively. And it's very freeing.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't matter too much. And it's just really great feedback that I love.
So you've met some pretty big names. I'm going to ask you to tell us your favorite people.
Okay.
And you and I talked just before we started recording about having Dean Graziosi on, who is Tony Robbins' business partner. And I interviewed Brad Hart, who works with them yesterday. And so you and I were like, look at this symbiotic world that we're in. It was super fun. Tell us about what it's like to interview and get to know people who are so well known. Tell us about that and any surprises that you've come across in that experience.
That's a good question. I always wondered things like this when I was younger. And what are people really like? What does it really take to be successful? And I think I learned the most from the successful people I've had on and have personally met and personally known, more so through being with them and their energy than what they're saying. Because everyone is looking for the secret. And I think the secret overall is certainty in some capacity.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I just had this lady, her name's Sanira Hadani, and she just sold a company for $1 billion. And she's young, 36-year-old. She has she's a mom, like 3 kids, built a family in the middle of this whole thing. And she comes in morning, she's got this white jacket, all green. She looks great. She's positive, fiery, boom, boom, boom. And just through 5-10 minutes of talking to her, what I got out of it is how absolute certain she is and confident and fearless. But I also, when I kind of talk to her more and more, she puts a lot of work to get there.
Yes.
Spiritually, mentally.
Yes. And
action-wise within her business. And so the common theme that I would say is that the best of the best in the world, they have, I joke that it's like something off, but I think it's a good thing off, is that they just objectively believe in themselves and they still experience the same emotions that all of us do. Worry, is this going to work out? Am I doing the right thing? Am I really good enough for this?
Yeah.
They all experience those same emotions, but they are relentless action takers. And I think you have to be certain enough that you're like, you know what? I'm feeling these emotions right now, but I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to post another video. I'm still going to do another podcast. I'm still going to call another client.
Yeah.
And they just continually take action. And the antidote to everyone's problems in life is action.
I also call it getting around your human, because there's this human part of us that is like full of the things, helpless, hopeless, not good enough. Can I do it? Is this right? All of that is such a normal human experience.
Right.
And if we can get around the human into inspired action that moves us towards our goals, that's where the magic happens.
Exactly. And that's where I've found is 1, attachment, eliminating attachment. But then 2 is teaching people, and this is an exercise that everyone here that's listening can do that I think can really help them. You said, get out of your human. I've never heard that statement. I like that because that's such a great point. So an exercise they can do is go, okay, where are they at right now? And where do they want to go?
Yeah.
And you can even ask ChatGPT this probably, and it would tell you. You could think about, okay, what are the good things? But then sit through and go, what challenges and what emotions are going to be the byproduct of those challenges? Like, what am I going to experience? And this is one thing we started doing when we hire new people, especially in sales. What we tell them is you're going to be so excited right now because you see all the upside and you're not associating and figuring out all the downside to what you're going to experience.
Yeah.
And so we tell them, this is what the first 2 weeks of being in outside sales and learning something that you know nothing about is going to feel like. Day 1, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Immediately, your brain is going to go, we need to be safe. We need to do something different. This is a risk. I don't know what I'm doing. This doesn't mean you're crazy. This means you're human. Then third day, you're going to be like, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. Friday, you're like, oh my gosh, I got through this whole training. Wow. Okay. I'm better than I thought I was.
Yeah.
But then the bullets start flying and you start calling 300 people a day or whatever the case is. And immediately you are going to deal with more rejection in about 7 hours than most humans deal with in 10 years.
Yes.
I don't care how tough you are going to feel differently.
Yeah.
You're going to question everything. You're going to question you. You're going to question if it's worth it. And then you're going to get a little win. You're going to set an appointment. You're going to have some positive feedback. And you're like, whoa, okay, that's good. And then you're going to feel it. It's going to feel a little bit less. And so what I've found is that when we as humans start learning why we feel what we feel and what's causing what we feel, our brains can better process it.
Yeah.
You're still going to experience it.
Yes.
But you kind of zoom out and you're like, okay, this is that difficult part. I knew this was coming. This is what it's going to feel like. If I do these things and these things and these things, I'm going to get through this period. I'm going to experience growth. And then I will feel these emotions.
Yeah.
And so it's a different perspective of doing things. And it's not, this is why I need to learn all the words, because I'll say something and you're like, this is called this and this. I love things like this. This is what it was like when I met Jeremy Miner, because he's really great in sales. And I feel like I've figured out a lot about sales, and I would say this thing. He goes, oh, it's this and this and this and this.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes, this is why I need you around me.
Yes, I love that.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, sales, I had Cole Gordon on yesterday from close.io, and we were talking about sales and how much we need to grow into being able to face rejection. And the frontline salespeople is where they build the biggest muscle. And that level of muscle serves them in every area of A, life, and B, the business. Yeah.
When you I think dealing with rejection and immense challenges in any area of life is one of the most beautiful experiences any person can go through. Because if you look at your life and you're like, how would I develop this person? Well, would I give them an easy life? No. Would I give them so many challenges, so much rejections? Would I break down their ego to nothing to make them think, can they even do this? Can they even survive? Can they even get to the next level? And then push them and push them and push them. Because, that's why, we were talking about earlier, the action takers and absolute certainty. The reason why I've seen, and each person, you probably have a complete different answer, which I'd love to hear. But the reason why that's so important is those people are running towards change so quickly that it is forcing them to develop quicker.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, everyone has a different timetable and different season, and they're all here for a reason. But a lot of people are waiting for this moment to occur, but they're never attacking the development that is needed for them to become the person that's capable of achieving what they want.
Right. You've got to grow into the version of self that has the goal you wish.
Yes. And you have to ask yourself the question, are you willing to go through what it takes to become that person?
Because it takes what it takes.
It takes what it takes.
Yeah.
And there's no shortcut. And what I found is, and I was telling this to someone, for example, you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped per se. And I've learned this through having certain people in my company, and you just love them. You see the potential in them. You see how incredible they are. You see the spark in their eye.
Yeah.
But they've always had these like up and down cycles in their life. And what I learned is, I have a friend that I work for. His name's Sebastian Ings. You would like him a lot.
I would.
Very interesting person.
Okay.
Very interesting.
I'm in. Yeah.
But he talked about this, and I was like, man, he's so on. And he said, what happens is they're almost borrowing your energy. So if you think about this, a person starting at point A, and you're investing all this time, this energy, this focus in developing, you're holding them accountable, you're pushing them, you're pushing them, you're pushing them. They get all this excess energy, and it propels them to go up. And then you're like, okay, I got to go to my next person. So what happens to all that energy? That energy was not theirs.
It wasn't self-created.
Exactly. It was borrowed. And so what happens? They go all the way back down, and then you're like, oh, we got to get Johnny. We got to get him going again. So you put it on there. So what does he do? He is, and if that person doesn't truly become that person, they will never be able to operate at that level.
Or hold.
Yes.
hold that level.
Exactly.
They can operate there, but they need the scaffolding.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you create, as we're still talking salespeople, we're talking
Salespeople, I think, are a metaphor for anybody.
for all the people.
For everybody.
All right. So let's go to all the people need to be able to build their own way to be able to stay at the set point for the career and life they want.
And I think the only way to do that is massive discomfort.
Yeah.
Massive, massive discomfort and massive intentional transformative growth.
Yeah. Here. Yes. Okay. Curious minds want to know who has been the most interesting. Actually, that is terrible because it'll make you choose amongst all your people and you won't want to do that. Let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Where have you enjoyed or felt one of those pinch me moments when you've been interviewing people for your podcast?
Pinch me as like, wow, I have them on, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I feel like anything that makes you just feel like, is this my life? Is this a dream? Yeah. So you can have any version of what that means to you.
Okay.
Tell us about a couple of those.
So so far, I don't think I've had that, like, I haven't had that overall experience with someone I was interviewing, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think I had it. My first experience of that was I've been through a lot, and it just started clicking, and I started a business in 2020 and everything went crazy. It was awesome. We got Best Place to Work. We got all these nice awards, accolades. And then social media was taking off at the same time. It was like everything was hitting at once. And it was right after the pandemic, and Europe just opened, and I took all of my family to Europe. My mom had never been to the Amalfi Coast. So it's like dream location, stunning, beautiful.
Yeah. And
I took all of them there. And then at the same time, like I wake up and this huge, big news national outlet in America is really big, sends an email to my assistant, hey, can Grant come on national TV? I'm like, what the heck? So like I'm in Italy, my business is booming. I'm going viral at the same time. My podcast is going crazy. And then I'm going on national. And it's like, what is going on? It was like all at once. And that previous, a year before that, let's say 4 years before that, was the most uncomfortable, stressful, problematic, and uncertain time of my entire life. And it kind of made every stressful future situation kind of nothing. It just, it caused me to not get so worked up in things that are problems now, because it's not as bad. I'm like,
yeah, you walked through the fire.
Yeah.
You made peace with the discomfort, the tolerance of uncertainty and distress. You were able to find your way to live and coexist with that whilst building your way out.
And another thing that I learned, to go back to your question, is the reason why. So like where you're at right now, let's say you want this like massive, massive goal, and you're like, wow, if I had this person, within my company, or if I interviewed this person, or I had a relationship with this person, or if I was making this much money, I won't even know it would be amazing. It'd be a dream. It'd be a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
Well, of course it would, because the difference between where you are and where you want to be is so different. That seems unlikely and unreal. But in the process of becoming that person, once you get there, it's not a pinch me moment. You should be there. You're energetically aligned. Like even just you and me, we sat down and you're like, oh, this person interviewed this person. We have all these things.
Yeah.
That's not, that should probably happen.
Yeah.
And so when you become that person and that big stage happens, you've become that person. So you're like, I should be here. And you're so focused on the little details of the operation that you're having that you're not even like, oh my God, this person's on. You're like, okay, I got this person, this thing, that'll be a good one. This should do well. Okay, where do we got next week? Okay, where do we got this? And it's not, like, I'm not saying that, oh, you're not present. It's just you've become that person now. So the perspective and the view changes. Now, if I could go back in time and tell myself this in high school, I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can't believe it. I'm sure I'm just high on life 24/7. And, there are times I am, of course, but there's a steady calmness that you're just like, okay, what is next? Okay, what do we got to do? There's one thing, could it change my life? I guess, but who knows? We're just building, we're working. And so I found, and maybe I should more, but I don't want to get so caught up in, wow, this is amazing and this is this, that I stop doing the little things that got me there and will help me continue to grow.
Yeah, it's like you want to stay in focus. You want to stay in that space of this is where I'm going and this is what it takes. And there is a person that feels really good. Let me keep going. There's another person.
Yeah.
That feels really nice. I can feel the cadence of what you're describing, and I actually really get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're so focused on building.
Yeah.
You know, so when that big moment happens, you're in the flow state, like you're operating, you know, whether it's a big deal, a big meeting, something happens. I just gave a speech in Austin and the last couple of times, you know, when I gave that story about when I was starting my podcast, this is why everything that happens to you is for something in the future.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful about life.
Yeah.
Now that I'm relatively young, I'm only 29. And so in the last 10 years, I feel like I've learned so much. Such an advantage. Wisdom is everything in life.
Yes, it is.
So this podcast is so great.
Yeah.
But it's like that time where I'm like, I don't know how to edit. People want me to make a podcast. I guess I'll make a podcast.
Yes, I will.
And if I mess up once, I have to start over. So I had to teach myself to be able to get in front of a crowd or be on record and not mess up one time because I couldn't edit. So now if I give a speech, like for example, when I was in India and I gave a TED talk, and they are like very strict. I'm a very off the cuff type of person when I speak. I had to give them everything and they had to approve it.
Wow.
All the P's and Q's and everything. And they had a teleprompter. Teleprompters scare me in general because I never used them. And I'd memorized about 75% of it. And I get up there on stage to do it, and I see the teleprompter going like 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, oh my God. So I just don't even look at it, and I go off the top, and I just give the whole speech without looking at it. And even this weekend, you know, you get up there, the guy after had a piece of paper and was reading it line by line, and the delivery wasn't the same.
It's not the same.
It was a great story. It wasn't the same. And so it's like things like that. It's so micro, but it's like me learning how to do that out of just necessity translates into other things in life. And so we all have these things that we're experiencing, but a lot of times when we're experiencing them, we're fighting against the thing that is used to help us level up.
Yes, got it. One of the things I have observed about you is you have this lovely charismatic connection. You're very warm and you're able to pick up details and feed them back in positive ways. And so it builds rapport really quickly. I wonder if that's a learned skill or if that's innate in you. What's your knowledge of that?
I think there's some of that in me. My mom is she's an incredible communicator.
She is.
And she is incredibly emotionally intelligent. 100 times more than me. She's a social butterfly. Like she's retired now. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been so busy. I'm like, how is this possible? She's going to this and this and this. But so my mom, during the 2008 recession, America especially got hit so hard.
Yeah.
And my dad unfortunately got laid off bad. And my mom wasn't working at the time. And she had a friend whose brother worked at this really big telecommunications company here, Verizon. And he was like, you'd be amazing at sales for Verizon. She's like, you mean my husband? And then he said, no, Lisa, you would. And she hadn't been in business for 10 years. And she's like, okay, like I'll try it. And she went back to work literally to save the family and worked for Verizon for 16 years. So I would be in the back seat as a young kid, hearing her on sales calls, hearing her closing deals, hearing her doing this, and seeing how she would do it. And my dad as well, but in a different way. And you learn it. And then also sales is a very challenging thing. That's what I started off in. And now I'm not in sales, but my first job in my first year of college, I ended up dropping out, but anyways, what I was literally selling cable and internet in retail stores.
Okay.
And so every single day I had to talk to 150 people that went to that store to get bread, to get groceries, to get whatever. And I had to figure out a way to make them want to talk to me and then want to buy the product and service when they had no intention of doing so. They didn't call me. They didn't fill out something online. They're like, who is this random person talking to me in Walmart? And so I think a combination of all that helped. And like we were talking about with social media, you get so much feedback. if I say this on a video, you see how people respond, even if the message was good. And so you learn how people process information, and it kind of becomes instinctive. I'm learning.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Very open and very warm. And I think they're such lovely traits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'd love to know more about your family. How have they shaped you? We heard a little bit about your mom just then, but how have they shaped you in terms of you being an entrepreneur and you having the background and credentials that you now do? What's the connection?
The things I learned the most from my parents, the older I got, the more I've always appreciated and loved my parents. But when you're a kid, you're a kid. You know, especially like, you know, you think everything's about you as a kid. You don't know why your parents fight or if there was a divorce or this. My parents always had a rough marriage, but they're individually two incredible people. And what I learned from them, I don't need to ask them if they did this purpose. I think my mom did, and so did my dad, but I really want to learn like a lot of things. They taught my brother and I to believe in ourselves. They built our self-esteem up very, very strongly, both sides. And so I remember being a kid and I'd go, you know, Dad, I want to be this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. They never told me I couldn't do something. They'd go, oh, you can do that. Okay, well, let's see how you do that. And they'd literally like sit there and like try to help me, you know, as best as they could. And I've seen other kids. I remember I was dating this one girl in high school, or no, excuse me, college, first year or second year of college, one of the two. And I went to her house and her parents, amazing people. And she was like, well, you know, what if I just opened a boutique store? And what if I did this? And the dad's like, don't ever say that again. That's ridiculous. You need to go to Greece. You need to do this. You need this. That is not even a real thing. And I'm sitting there thinking like, why not? Like maybe she should do it. And I started getting exposed to other people's parents. And even if their parents were super wealthy, because I don't come from money.
Yeah.
Their parents were immediately putting their brain and their capabilities in a box, and they were projecting their own fear onto their kids.
Yeah.
And it was probably out of love to protect them, and they don't know any better.
Yeah.
But even though I didn't come from all this money, my parents, I don't know if it was directly or indirectly, they just made us think that we could actually do these things. And so I didn't know any better, you know? And another thing I would learn from my mom is that she took positivity very seriously. She took what you say very seriously. She did not allow any negativity around her at any circumstances. She will not put up with it. She doesn't allow it in her home. I think like right after college, me and my brother were getting in an argument, and my family doesn't really argue. And she was like, I will not allow strife in my house. I will not, like she will not put up with it. I was like, dang. And one of the key things that was really important to her is she made sure to start the day positive. So she'd wake me up and she would say like a quick prayer, kind of like as I'm like half awake, like just something really, really nice every morning. And she'd rise and shine, blah, blah, blah. She'd say something. I can't remember what she'd say. And so she was very big on like protecting that morning. And like she listened to music and as happy as can be, and just she'd go out of her way, and she still does, to always be in that mindset. And so she's like the glue that holds all of my family together. Big heart. And I think it comes from my grandma. And and my mom's such a beautiful and amazing person, but I always have this like deep affinity for my grandma. She passed in 2023, and she's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Even I saw her on her like basically deathbed, Alzheimer's bed, and she's out of it. And she was just so kind. And she only remembered 4 people up until her death. My mom, my uncle, which is her son, and then Reagan and I, my brother and I. Those the only people she remembered. Nobody else she knew. And she would be kind of out of it, and she'd look and she'd be like, I love you. And then she'd be out of it. And then even the nurses would come in and she'd go, thank you so much. I love you. Like that was who she was.
Her essence. Her
essence. It was beautiful. And that was the first time I had ever experienced true death in my life. I'd been lucky enough to not have to deal with that, minus layered, outside of family type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw the process happen for like 3 years, and I saw how much love and care my mom and my uncle had for her, how much love she had for us. And when you see people in these states, you get to see who they really are.
Yeah.
You get to see their true being, their true soul. And that's where I found, in a weird way, that the process of death was actually very beautiful.
You know, it's a really curious thing that we're here towards the end of our conversation. We actually started talking about death, and it was in one of my internal notes to talk to you about, to ask you about. And then it didn't feel like it was the right time to bring it up. We had these lovely other conversations. And then it just came up for the second time. I wonder, is death something that you're exploring or curious about at the moment? Is it something that you're kind of poking around in?
I just find it interesting. I think it's very interesting. Why are we here? What are we meant to do? And what are our purpose?
Yeah.
In the past year, I've been just studying energy, frequency, God, why we're here. And I'm learning that like this quote unquote system of life, it's just so beautiful. Like it's very perfect. And we're the unperfect ones.
Oh, yes.
And we're here to be perfected.
Oh.
And so when you change your perspective about life, like people always look at like, oh, death is just this horrible thing. If you change your perspective, it's like, no, it's like beautiful because it makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's like I have a friend, she was trying to complain to me about her boss. And I was like, this guy's amazing. I was like, because he's literally in real time shaping you, making you uncomfortable. I was like, does he give you the answer every time you call and this and that? She's like, no, he won't even pick up the phone. I was like, that's the best thing that could ever happen, because then what happens? You are forced to grow and find that answer. You said you wanted to be an entrepreneur and you're complaining that you can't get an answer from somebody. You have to become that person. And she's like, dang. So, and you start realizing that everything in life is beautiful. It's an experience and it's all about your perspective.
It is.
And the way you choose to look at it, like we were talking about earlier, the most popular kids in high school have the perspective that they really like and they see the best in all of these people. So people feel that same energy and that same warmth, and they return it back to them. And so that's where it's like all of these things are tied together. That's why we mentioned briefly first principles. First principles is living off of the most fundamental truths, and it's not living off metaphor. And so most humans, we're all guilty of this. I know I have at many times. We perceive someone because, like for example, you start dating a new person. Oh, she must be like this because this is how it was with my last girlfriend or my last relationship. Or the boss says this to you. Oh, he must not like me because this person said this. And our brain is trying to pull information and data from all these different points to reason this experience.
Yeah, to fill in the gaps of the things we don't know because that is uncomfortable.
Exactly. It's trying to protect us.
Yeah.
And so looking at the most fundamental truths and zooming out will give you the perspective and peace that you need.
So let's operationalize, as in let's define, what does it mean to say fundamental truth? I heard you say it's not the metaphor, but what actually is it?
So let me give a good metaphor. Elon Musk talked about this with the batteries on all the Tesla cars.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't even realize this now because electric cars and autonomous vehicles are becoming a thing. And so we don't think about it too much. But 15, 20 years ago, all there was gas-powered cars.
Yeah.
Anyone that has ever talked or heard about an electric vehicle would be, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
There's no way to do it. It's not going to make economic sense. There are going to be 150, 200,000 cars. Consumers can't afford that. Therefore, if you're starting an electric car company, you're not smart.
Yeah.
That is based on, because all of the smart people who are trained to take old information and only use that and reason with it instead of objectify and use critical thinking skills, they're not doing that. Elon was doing critical thinking skills because he's trying to create something that doesn't exist. So they look at everything and they go, okay, it's this price. But if you actually look in first principles, you're like, well, what key components are in a battery pack for a car? Well, it's nickel, cobalt, all these different things. Like let's say these 10 different precious metals, right? Well, how much do each one of those cost on the London Metal Exchange?
Yeah.
And what would the total be on all of those things? So when you identify all these different components and you add all those up, then they're like, whoa, they said it costs this, and this is what the current market's saying, but the cost is actually 1/10. So batteries are not too expensive. It's just the way it's positioned on the market is.
Interesting.
And so then they're like, okay, how do we build it? How would we build and create that manufacturing at scale? How would we purchase all of those materials at scale? Who knows how to do those things? Who can assemble those things? What technology do we need to do it? And you slowly peel back the layer to get to the answer. No different than you can utilize this in my own or your life or anybody's life that's listening is, I want to become this person. You could ask ChatGPT this, what characteristics would that person have? What skill sets would that person have? What types of people would they know? What type of challenges would they be able to handle? And then you go, okay, where is this information and where can I go to experience these experiences and be around these people instead of going, everyone that becomes successful came from money. No, that's the two people that you knew that had money had that. 86% of millionaires in America are self-made. So that's not true. Right? So it's just peeling back the layers of it into the system of whatever you're building.
So the most fundamental truth is what you're looking for, the lowest common denominator. What is this? How does it work? And what is required in order for me to assemble whatever it is that I'm trying to make?
I think in business, Kobe Bryant said this is you need to keep like your childlike curiosities. Yeah. Very simple. So I have this experience and I played American football. I know y'all do it. Is it I think it's football is out there as soccer, right?
Somewhat. It's complicated. Okay. I feel like let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had this experience at practice where as a quarterback, you have all these complex things. You're reading the defense, you have the protection, you're reading, there's so much different things. There's a whole different language going on. And there had been some word, apparently, and I didn't know this, that other teams were noticing that I was looking the way I was going to throw before I actually got the football. It's just a simple way of me saying that. But my coach had no idea of noticing this because the coach has all of these players, has all this complex stuff going to his brain, that he would never notice me going like, hype. But a little 8th grader, a younger kid that would come up to the practice like, hey, why do you always look to the right before you throw it? And I was like, I do that? And he's like, yeah, why do you do that? I was like, I don't know. And then I'd found out 2 weeks later that teams were picking up on it and no one noticed. You got a 10-person coaching staff. You have other players that have played longer, but a kid that's 5 years younger is the one that picked it up. Wow. He was watching the game in first principles and the basics. He's like, why is that person always looking to the right? And so I think who you get feedback from, who you have around, and how you look at things in the most simple form is actually the most intelligent way.
Yes, I feel the resonance of that so profoundly. That feels like a chef's kiss, you know, like, yes, Michelin star, 5 hats, you know?
Love it.
Okay, maybe it's more than 1 star. Anyway, this feels like the perfect time because I feel like all of us have got to know you, all of us being the listeners, and we've really enjoyed our time and it's coming to the end. And I'm going to pull up some chairs for our listeners to come and metaphorically join us. Okay. And we're all settled in, we're relaxed now, we're friends. And the feeling in the room is, what's the last piece of wisdom or advice you'd like to leave us with now that we're friends? Now that we know each other and we're at ease, going to let us in just that little bit deeper because we're more known to you. There's less armor. And not that there was when we started, but just in following the laws of belonging to each other, we get more and more and more comfortable. So what last things would you like a listener to know?
I just say life is too short to be nothing but happy. So you control your happiness, you control your happiness based on what you choose to perceive. And in every moment, you can look at anything in any way in which you choose. Yeah. Any way in which you choose.
It can feel sometimes hard to take off the glasses that you're wearing, but they're take-off-able. Yeah.
And if you don't train yourself to think the right way, the world and others will do it automatically for you. And part of that process is unlearning the things that our system, our world, your parents, the school you went to, the friends that you've been around, and the culture that you're in have pre-programmed in you. Yeah. Sometimes you have to peel that back, realize what caused it, and retrain yourself to think the right way. America especially is very quick to give people three-letter diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be very careful with that, because we can all find a way to be anxious, depressed, whatever, if we have trained our brain to look at things in that manner. Mm. And I think we should never give up our control to be able to change our life. And we should never let a diagnosis, a person, a bad relationship, trauma, any issues that someone has faced become our identity, and then look through that lens.
Mm. I feel like, if I might add, it sounds like we are reminding our friends around this table about their agency, their ability to influence and lead and choose and decide, and that every moment is the opportunity to choose something different.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And if you don't, and like we talked about earlier, all of our conversation is so intertwined in a very interesting way. If you don't truly train yourself to become that person, you will always go back to that default setting, which has been pre-programmed before. Yeah. And then your perception and your ego will look for ways to justify that, oh, you are an anxious person.
Yeah.
You are a depressed person.
Look at all these reference points.
Look at all these references. This person went to Harvard. This person went to here. My mom went this. And your ego will want to find those things to prove itself. It's very interesting.
Well, it's also the brain being pointed in a direction. Mm-hmm. And so if you point it in the direction of all the times I wasn't anxious versus all the times I was, it's going to return the data to you. Mm-hmm. So which way are you pointing that beautiful brain of yours?
Brains are so interesting.
Oh, they're so interesting. We have to do podcast 2 for that one.
I'm going to have to listen to you the whole time. I'll have to interview you.
Well, that sounds super fun.
It sounds
Imagine that. It has been such a joy to have you in the studio
it's an honor.
today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being my first Austin, Texas friend.
Well, I hope it was a good one.
It was a great one.
Good.
It was super fun.
Good. I hope you enjoy.
Me too. I'm going to have to get that barbecue place from you. I'm going to write it down.
Terry Black's.
Terry Black's.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm off.
That's the famous one.
I'm going to do it tonight. I love that.
Perfect.
I'd like to thank Grant Mitt for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes. In today's episode, we explored his journey from startup to scaling success, the strategies behind wealth building and mindset mastery, and how he's empowering others through his content and leadership. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. You can follow Grant by searching @Grant Mitt on social media and tune in to the Grant Mitt Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. To stay connected with me, follow @Meg Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I hope you gained a little wisdom today. My name is Meg Tuohey, and this is Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @Meg Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.